Mary Sue's journal, cylinder number 7. What's happened is that Mina, cylinder 6 was supposed to be my last cylinder before bed. The storm has subsided, at least for now. They say that it's going to resume probably pretty soon. Not that they have accurate weather forecasting technology, but I guess these old retired sailors and it's kind of those guys, I don't know, yeah, retired sailors and marine type lighthouse people who used to work at the lighthouse, the salty old sea dog type characters. There's some of them, these old guys that kind of wander around the beach and the cliffs and the shore. They know, they can feel it in their bones or see it in the color of the sky or whatever, that what the storms, if there's going to be a storm or how long it's going to. Anyway, they're all saying this is a really weird storm and this is just temporary, and all the crickets and frogs and things are going. It's nighttime now, and Mina let me go back up to my bedroom for bed, but she said since the cylinders that I've recorded have been so rambling, and she just doesn't know how long it's going to take for me to do them, and she just set up the recorder in my bedroom, and apparently it's not the recorder. I thought it was like a special, expensive piece of technology, which it is, but apparently Dr. Seward has like 3 of them. This is just one of the recorders, and that's in my room, and Dr. Seward has one in his office, and Mina has apparently appropriated the 3rd recorder, and she's using that for herself, whatever she's doing with it. But yeah, so, and I don't know what happened with Mina, because like I said, she's a little who knows what happens in her head and what she's going through, but she had me locked in that sub basement kind of dungeon at first, and then moved me up to the regular basement and locked me in there, and now I'm in my bedroom. I don't know why, like, she's moving me around to these different levels of security, or I don't know, maybe she thinks I'm not going to escape at this point. Or just because she thought it would not take that long to record my audio journal, and it's because I'm kind of dragging it out, not on purpose, but it's just because she gave me the absinthe, and I don't know, that's just the way I kind of ramble. I just tend to do that. In real life, I did do like YouTube videos sometimes, and I just kind of rambled, and I mean, they were sewing. I did like sewing videos because I was, as a hobby, a doll maker. I made like dolls, and that sounds kind of stupid, but they actually are really good. And yeah, it was right. I learned to sew, and I just got a book like how to make a doll, and immediately I was making my own patterns and like trying to make really good looking, like kind of cool ladies, and I did like Alice in Wonderland, and but yeah, that has nothing to do with it. But it was weird at the beginning of the game when I was at the Golden Crone Inn, and the first thing was that there was all those potato people, the like Mr. Potato Head, but the different characters made of potatoes, and all in a line on the shelf, and then the innkeeper Sonia said that my character Mary Sue had made all those potato people and dressed them up and stuff, and and I was kind of thinking that's interesting because in real life I did go through that phase of making a lot of dolls, and I had them all on the top of the piano in my apartment, which yeah, I mean, it was a small apartment, and so yeah, it might sound weird because I've been saying that I had a small apartment, but yeah, I did have a piano. Someone gave me this piano. They had two pianos, and I don't know why, but they gave me one piano, and I had just been reading because I was trying to decorate that apartment, and it was so small, and I was like, well, how am I going to fit furniture in this? And I read something that said if you have a small apartment, sometimes it's a good idea to have a large piece of furniture, like a focal. Like, don't get tiny furniture. That's only going to make it look tinier. If you have a small space, actually put a big piece of furniture, and somehow that makes it seem bigger, which did not turn out really to be true, because I put this piano, and not a grand piano, not a baby grand piano. It was just a typical sort of upright piano, full-sized upright piano, but yeah, it took up pretty much half of the dining room, but anyway, I put all these dolls that I had made 20 or 25 of these dolls on top of the piano, and that just, when I saw this potato people, it reminded me, and I thought that's interesting because yeah, my character apparently is made all these potato people, and in real life I had made all these dolls and kind of put them in a row like that, but yeah, why am I even talking about that? I don't know. But anyway, I'm back in my bedroom again, and Mina set up the recorder and gave me a case of cylinders, and she just said, and she did actually lock the door from the outside. She's put some kind of bolt on it on my bedroom, so I am still locked in, but it's like, you know, I'm upgrading to nicer and nicer confinement. I'm in my bedroom, which is pretty nice. And she just said, since it's taking you so long to record this journal, just if you, in the middle of the night, if you wake up and you feel like making another one, do, because let's move this along and try to get through the journal of everything that happened. And so that's kind of what's happening. And the storm subsided, and I opened the window, and there's like finally a little bit of cool air. It had been so hot and humid during the storm, and now it's still really humid, but it is a bit cooler, and yeah, I just thought, let me just try to record another cylinder. I just felt like it. I was in the mood. I actually did get another cup of tea, which is really dumb because it was late, and just because I kind of had a headache from the absinthe, I think, and it's just a dumb thing. In real life, too, I think if I have some caffeine, it will counteract alcohol, and that's not, it actually makes it worse. But I thought, alright, just let me have a cup of tea, maybe that will help. And I'm still drinking the cup of tea, so kind of stupid, because how am I going to go to sleep? I should have had like a nighttime chamomile or something, but I just had like Earl Grey kind of tea, caffeinated. Stupid. But yeah, I hope if anyone that made the game is listening, just when I wake up tomorrow, please let me not have a headache. I just reboot the system. I won't. Not that the headache is bad. Like I said, in the game, it's usually pretty pleasant. You don't have bad bodily sensations. You don't get like a stomach ache or sick or discomfort or anything like that. The headache, mild, but it was like I don't know, just from the absinthe, a little something, and I, for some dumb reason, thought more caffeine at night is a good idea. Dumb. Okay, anyway, already a third of the way through the cylinder. Okay. So this is the next day. Jonathan and I had dinner with Count Dracula, and not that it was a real dinner, but it was satisfying because it was casual in front of the fire in the library, but there were a lot of hors d'oeuvres, like I said, and so many kinds of hors d'oeuvres, and I ate quite a lot, so it was satisfying, like a dinner. And I prefer that, really, even in real life. I don't like a big entree. I just like to kind of pick at this and that and have lots of small meals and stuff. And again, it's a game too, so you never get a hunger discomfort. You might feel hungry, but it's not like you go to bed hungry, and you're always pretty comfortable. So anyway, the next day, and Dracula had said he wasn't going to see us till later in the day. And I think we had been up quite late with him in the library, so I woke up and I didn't have a clock or anything like that, but it felt like a late time to wake up. And I could hear, because Jonathan and I had adjoining rooms and there was a door between, but I could hear that he was up and about, and it sounded like he was getting dressed maybe. And I had been not given a nightgown, but when I came back up from dinner with Dracula, there was, I guess Fatalia had put a nightgown there for me, and that's what I was wearing. And then when I had to get dressed, I had to decide between the peasant potato sack that I had been wearing earlier and then the slinky black dress that I wore to dinner. Those were the only two outfits I had. So I put on the slinky black dress. I was pretty done with that peasant potato sack. And I had the option. I had the cloak, like I said. I had my peasant traveling cloak and that wooden stake that I could hide in the sleeve. But I thought, it might be like 11 o'clock in the morning, and the vampires are going to be asleep during the day. There's no reason to be wearing this cloak and carrying around the wooden stake. I'll just, wear the slinky black dress because, like I said, my character looked good, and there was a mirror in my room, and I'll wear this slinky black dress around. Why not? Versus the potato sack. So I left my room, and at that time Jonathan actually was exiting his room as well, which probably was like the game coordinated. Like as soon as I left the room, Jonathan came out of his room, and he had a pocket watch because he was a Victorian guy, so he had a pocket watch, and he said it was brunch time, and we went down, and we were a little bit concerned because the Count said he wasn't going to see us, but we didn't know if the servants were gonna, like, how are we gonna get food and stuff. But we went down, and the table was set in the kind of breakfast area. The table had food on it, and I don't know who put it. I guess Fatalia maybe, or somebody put it there. In the book Dracula, he was the one who made all the food and put it out for Jonathan. But in the game version, he didn't seem to be so much playing that role of making the beds and making the food. I think it was Fatalia or some other servant, vampire woman servant that he had. And I later found out that there were others, not just Fatalia. But anyway, the brunch was laid out, and eggs and that kind of stuff. And Jonathan and I were alone. We didn't see anyone else, and we just sat down and ate. We started eating brunch. It was good. I mean, the food was good, and I don't remember all. It was just like a brunch, breakfast, eggs kind of stuff like that. And we were conversing because it was just the two of us, and Jonathan thought I was odd, like the whole experience we'd had before, and he knew I was, and Sonia, the innkeeper, had told him I was mentally touched in the head or whatever, and I had said weird things, but he was always so polite and just treated me like a normal person, and so he was conversing with me, and he said that he was pleased that Dracula, because of the things we had heard in the village, that he was pleased that Dracula seemed like a civilized gentleman. I guess he was just ignoring the fact, not that Dracula said anything that bad, but he was talking about how his family had tortured St. George and all that stuff, and I knew that it was not his ancestors, that it was probably him, because he is immortal. But yeah, Jonathan didn't seem to be fazed by that. He was like, oh, Count Dracula is a gentleman, and but then he said, I don't know what is in store for you, Mary Sue, because what they say in the village, that the Count takes women, and he was uncomfortable like talking about this, but he is a good, brave, heroic guy at heart, and he said, I'm not sure why they brought you here, but I'm going to try to make sure that they treat you respectfully, and that nothing bad happens to you, and that was really nice of him. Not that excuse me, not that I was that worried about it, because for me, I knew it was a game and whatever. Let's see, if they turn me into a vampire, that could be interesting. But yeah, but Jonathan was really nice about it, and I think he kind of just thought the Count was one of those sort of debauched, if that's the word I'm looking for, aristocrats, just that he takes what he wants, and women and whatever. And yeah, Jonathan, like I said, he's an orphan. He was probably identifies more with servants and orphans like I was, and just look out for my welfare. That was good. And I said to him, what do you think, I said, let's, if we have time to look around the castle, let's just look and see if we can find that Roxana and Felix, if you see anybody, just find out who they are, because I don't know if we're supposed to be looking for them, or just like, if you see anybody, just ask about them or something like that. And he said that he would. I don't know if he would or not, because like I said, my impression of Jonathan is that well, okay, yeah, actually, let's just keep going, because yeah, Jonathan was kind of like torn between being a good guy and looking out for people's safety, and doing his job, which was to, in a way, pander to the Count and sell him property, and get the Count to like him and stuff like that. So yeah, what I was saying while we were still eating brunch, I said, we should always be armed with some weapons, and I know you said you did not want to wear a cross to protect yourself, but I remembered another thing, another item you can use to protect yourself is garlic, and I don't see why vampires would have garlic in their castle, but if we find garlic or something, keep some garlic with you, or have a cross, and I will try to make you a pointy stick too. And I said, but you're probably not, you don't believe in vampires, and But I said there's mirrors in the castle, and I forgot to try to check this last night. And I also remembered that in the book, Jonathan has like a little shaving mirror. And in the book, Dracula, actually, yeah, that's the scene where Jonathan is shaving, and he is looking in his little shaving mirror, and there's no reflection, but all of a sudden the Count is standing behind him, and he kind of like looks in his shaving mirror, and he's like, and there's no reflections, and he cuts himself shaving because he's kind of, why doesn't this guy have a reflection? And that's where Dracula is like, don't, it's dangerous to cut yourself, and it's kind of, he gets all crazy because of the blood that Jonathan cut himself shaving. But anyway, yes, I remembered that Jonathan had a shaving mirror. I was just thinking about mirrors, and I said, Jonathan, when any of these, if Italia or Dracula is around and you are near a mirror, just check it out. And in the book, they don't have reflections, and if you see that these people don't have a reflection, then that's obviously odd and supernatural, and maybe you'll believe that they're monsters, and you will start taking my suggestions seriously about having a cross or garlic or a wooden stake just to defend yourself against the monsters. And he said, okay, yeah, I'll try to check out their reflections. He was just humoring me, I think, because he thought I was a mentally touched, odd girl, and also at the same time trying to be polite, not like, shut up, Mary Sue, you crazy. No, he was like, okay, yeah, I'll definitely check that out. But he also said, please, Mary Sue, I will investigate this, what you're saying, if there are monsters. But until I have a verdict on that, can you please not try to stab the Count with a pointy stick, because this is my first assignment, and I want to sell this property. My boss, this is like a huge thing for my career. And it's not like challenging, like basically he knew that the Count wanted this property, and Jonathan just had to kind of show him the information and do the paperwork and whatever. And he said, let me get through this, my first assignment, and get it done. And yeah, don't be stabbing the Count or anything, because I want this to go smoothly, my first assignment, and just get it over with. Just at least put the paperwork in the mail to go back to Mr. Hawkins and to the real estate company that he works for. And I kind of said, you know what? In the book, yeah, I know that you, and in the what's happening now, you had to travel to Transylvania to sell this property to Dracula, and I never really understood that, is why could the business not be conducted through the mail? It's paperwork, and like, what is the point of you traveling all the way out to Transylvania to this castle in the mountains in person to sell this property? Why do you have to do that? You could not just mail like description of the property and photographs, and then Dracula could write back to you and say if he wants it or not, and then you could mail him the contracts or whatever. Or why could Dracula, if he wants so badly to move to England, why, and he's rich, why not just why would he not just travel to England and then do the business there? And Jonathan said, that he agreed. He said it is. He said this is just the way it is with aristocrats. They like to be sort of pandered to, and you have to go to them. They don't come to you. They like to feel. I mean, he didn't say this, but what the gist of it was is that that aristocrats like to be the sort of center, that you have to go to them, and even though it's like a big journey and takes a lot of time, and that you're like their little servant, like bowing, like, oh, please buy this property. And he said that Lord Applethorn, who is kind of like the big cheese in Whitby. He's like the lord, basically the lord of Whitby, but it's like he's Lord Applethorn because this big section of Whitby is like called Applethorn or something like that. And he is Arthur Holmwood's father, and Arthur Holmwood is going to be Lord Applethorn, and that's Lucy's. I mean, he hasn't proposed yet, but in the book they get married, Lucy and Arthur. But anyway, yeah, Lord Applethorn owns this Carfax manor that Dracula is trying to buy. So, and Jonathan said Lord Applethorn sent is kind of friends with Dracula, and at that time I was unclear, but yeah, they had met before and corresponded quite a lot, and he was pretty chummy with Dracula. They were both interested in Whitby and kind of this historical stuff, like the Abbey, and the history of Whitby goes way back to even way pre-medieval. Like, I won't get into that now, but like, it's kind of like the people who live in Whitby. Some of them, the old timers and families that go way back, think that a lot of kind of King Arthur stuff happened in Whitby, which, I mean, I don't know that much about England in real life, but I do know, like, Whitby is kind of like Yorkshire, I think, which is not normally associated with King Arthur. Like, that's all kind of south, like Wales and, like southwest Cornwall and southwest England. So Yorkshire is like the northeast kind of, and I don't think there's much legend about King Arthur there, but yeah, apparently in the game or whatever, like, people thought that there was some King Arthur had gone there or something like that, and that's what like Lord Applethorn, because his family was the lord of that area for a long time, and they feel like I think they even said like part of their estate was maybe Camelot or something like that, and maybe they're just deluded, or who knows, but because I don't think King Arthur was even real. But anyway, that's like Lord Applethorn and Dracula kind of became friends because Dracula was interested in that kind of King Arthur history of Whitby, and they were like pen pals and in some kind of like historical society. And that is not even in the book. It was in the game, and it didn't just like spill all this information on me. I'm getting ahead of myself at this point, but yeah, all Jonathan really said is that Lord Applethorn is kind of friends with Dracula, and Dracula, this is how Dracula wanted it, for the solicitor to go to him and do the paperwork there at Castle Dracula. And, whatever the client, the aristocratic client who I would assume this Carfax manor to buy it or rent it, or I don't know what Dracula was doing. Buying it is pretty expensive, so it was worth it to send the solicitor out to Transylvania. But anyway, yeah, the cylinder's almost up, but I'll move us along. We finished our brunch, and we didn't really know what to do because we still hadn't seen anybody. But Jonathan said, "Oh, I would like to go to the library," because Jonathan is pretty keen on researching stuff, and like I said, he was trying to learn the history of the area and the language and studying the maps. He just is like that kind of bookish, I guess, and he just wanted to see what books the Count had and if he could learn anything, like their history books or some maps or something like that. So we went back to that library again, and Jonathan was looking at the books, and there were so many, but he kind of went to I don't know if the game did it somehow, like with colors, or if they can make you kind of focus on something, but there was one section of the shelves that just, and maybe it was more colorful or more interesting looking, and that's where Jonathan went, and he saw all these books about England and the history of England, and a lot of books specifically about Whitby and the King Arthur myths and stuff, and he was intrigued. And by the way, I didn't say this before, but when we had met Dracula the night before at dinner, Dracula's accent was very British. It was a little, maybe a hint of Transylvanian, but he sounded like a really upper class, kind of aristocratic English person, pretty much. And Jonathan even commented, and he said, "Oh, your English is very good." And so then Jonathan saw all these books about England, and he kind of made some kind of joke a little bit, but I think maybe he felt intimidated or unworthy or something, and he said the Count, he probably knows more about England and Whitby and the history of the area than I do, if he's read all these books. And the Count's accent, which just in real life I do know a little bit about British accents, not much, but I think one time I saw a video on YouTube about different accents, and like Jonathan's was like a Yorkshire, not a hardcore Yorkshire, but a little bit Yorkshire accent, and Dracula's was like very upper crust accent, and I think Jonathan felt a little, because you would think if you're the solicitor coming to sell British property and you're like British and going to like the mountains in Carpathia and Transylvania, that you're going to be more British than the Count of this random castle in the mountains in Transylvania, but the Count was actually like more English in a way, like upper crust English. But anyway, that's like Jonathan's whole, the character was quite robust, I would say. As a character, he had a lot of depth, and he might have been feeling kind of inferior, and it wasn't my issue though, but I did detect that issue radiating off of Jonathan a little bit. But then we were there a while, and at that point, the Count showed up in the library. He came in the library, but the cylinder is up, so that is going to have to be the next cylinder of the next encounter.